All right, today we're going to be looking at the first four problems of the PSAT practice exam, the reading module, and I will have the PDF to the practice exam as well as the answer key down in the description if you'd like to check that one out. Now, even if you have no clue anything about English reading, writing, all the jargon and the stuff like that, but you can still get questions correct. So you're going to start by reading everything all the way down. You're going to note what it is. It's a poem. The author doesn't really matter in this case, but the title of it. Then you're going to read the whole excerpt, and then you're going to read the question. So I would recommend reading the passage before reading the question, and then after you read the question, you can go back to the passage, and you have an idea of what the passage is about, like in its entirety. So for this question, as used in the text, what does the phrase "a void" most nearly mean? So we're looking at this right here, a void. And now, for most nearly mean, it means any one of these could probably work. But we're looking for the one that's the best option. So you can't just look at A, think it's right, and then put it down. You have to look at all the answers. So we're going to run through A, B, C, and D, and we're going to replace a void with our answers. So a useless and silent space between two worlds, an empty and silent space between two worlds, a forgotten and silent space between two worlds, and an incomplete and silent space between two worlds. Now, all of those grammatically work, but this is where you have to look at the tone and what sounds the best. So a useless and an incomplete don't sound as good as an empty and a forgotten, because in this passage you're looking at a silent space between two worlds, a void and silent space between two worlds. So you're not looking for a useless space. You're trying to, so we're going to cross out a useless, and there's no mention of it being incomplete or lacking in any other space, in any other place, so we're going to cross out D. So either B or C is probably our best option. Now, B, an empty, is synonymous with void. So empty space is the same as a void. Forgotten, there's not much mention of memory or like the past or any sort of time. Well, here, time of pause. But there's no passage of time here. So either one of these could be correct, but an empty makes more sense when you're just looking at a void. So the entire passage context is important, but you're also just looking at a void. So an empty is likely the correct answer here. Okay, move on to the next one. Same thing, we're going to read the entire passage, and then we're going to look at the question. Which choice completes the text with the most logical and precise word or phrase? So pretty much the same as the last one. We're going to look at this blank space, and we're going to put in A, B, C, and D. Predicting quilt-like paintings inspired by the patchwork quilting tradition of Black communities in the South. So we're looking for a verb here, right, that has to deal with quilt-like paintings. So he is, this man, Sam Gilliman, is making something. So we're looking for a word that is the same as making something, or like painting, making, painting, any sort of creative art stuff. So predicting probably doesn't work. Refusing doesn't work in this context. Hiding doesn't work because, yeah, it doesn't work. None of these work in the context of doing something to the quilt-like paintings. Now, creating the quilt-like paintings would work. So we're going to go with D here. All right, for number 3, you have a study about how workloads affect productivity. So again, read the whole passage and then the question. Which choice completes the text with the most logical and precise word or phrase? Same as the last one. We're going to be putting these into the blank. All these into the blank here. So, secretive, efficient, outgoing, and unsympathetic. Unsympathetic has nothing to do with the passage. There's nothing about sympathy. Secretive, also nothing. So efficient and outgoing are our two probable outcomes. Now, you look at the passage, we're looking at productivity. So outgoingness probably doesn't have anything to do with productivity. And when we read this sentence, who chose to do relatively easy tasks first were less efficient compared to those who do hard tasks first. So that makes the most sense out of these four. We're going to go with B, efficient. All right, moving on to the last one. We have a passage from Dracula here. So read the context. This is the context of the passage. This is the passage, and this is the question. As used in the text, what does the word disturbed most nearly mean? So we're looking at this underlined phrase, and again, that's exactly like the first question that we ran into. So we have disorganized, alarmed, offended, and interrupted. And now each of these are going to be they're going to work grammatically when we replace disturbed with them. So we can also just break down disturbed. And now we know disturbed has some synonyms. So we're going to look at disturbed. Disorganized is a synonym for disturbed, so A is possible. Alarmed is a synonym. Offended, not so much, so we're going to cross out C. And interrupted is also a synonym. So we can look at those. So we crossed out C. So now we're looking at just A, B, and D. And this is when we can put them in to the context of the passage and see which one sounds the most correct. So disorganized. The driver, however, was not in the least disorganized. He kept turning his head left to right, but I could not see anything through the darkness. So disorganized probably doesn't work here. Or at least it works less than some of the other ones. So we're going to cross out A. So now we're down to alarmed and interrupted. So both of these work, but in the context of the sentence, alarmed is probably the one that works best. So we're going to go with B. Now, a lot of the PSAT questions, the trick that they do is just they have a bunch of answers that all work, but it wants you to find the one that works best. So you really have to break down what each of them means, look at the context of the passage as well as the question for specifics like that.